Let's track the trends guiding the Pacers' better play of late. What's real about their defensive surge? Yes, surge the last couple of games. What lineups are guiding them? But first, a new signee, Ethan Thompson, joins the Pacers for RayJ Dennis. Why'd they do that? We'll talk about it all today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin. And today, the Pacers have made a move, a surprise Sunday move to end November. RayJ Dennis, his time is over after nearly a year with the team. Ethan Thompson coming in on a two-way agreement instead. Why did the Pacers decide to do that? Plus, something I mentioned I wanted to talk about after the Bulls game, more depth on these trends for the Pacers of late, this new lineup that's clicking for them, this pairing of McConnell and Siakam that is clicking for them, and a deeper dive into their defense rocking these last couple games, particularly since Bennedict Mathurin returned from injury. Some of that is because of Mathurin, some of that is not, and the team has been much more functional. I would have started with trends and spent all day talking about that. I could do that for 24 straight hours, but we start instead in the cap sheet / the transaction world, because the Pacers made a move. They, on the same day, by the way, as Garrison Matthews' contract expiring, which I do think is a little related, they make a move. Out goes RayJ Dennis. In comes Ethan Thompson. You probably never heard of Ethan Thompson because he's never played an NBA game. We'll talk about how I'd heard of him originally in a second, but what is this specifically? So Thompson is a bigger guard, kind of wingish, more guard-sized, I would say, that comes from the Sioux Falls Sky Force in the G League. That's the Heat's G League team. You can do better, or excuse me, you can't really do better than going to that Miami system to poach somebody. Thompson played in the preseason for Miami as well. He's been a career G Leaguer, right? A bunch of training camps, preseason with 3 teams. He had a two-way with the Magic last year, but didn't actually play in an NBA game because the Magic were pretty healthy. So he's signed NBA contracts before, including this one. Obviously, this is already official. The Pacers announced it, but he has yet to actually play in an NBA game. But he, since going to Oregon State, has been pretty dang good in the G League. I first heard of him because last season, the Mad Ants, the then Mad Ants, made the playoffs. They win their first round game, their first playoff win in over a half decade, and they go to Osceola to play the Magic. Ethan Thompson was on the Magic, and the first quarter, Osceola scored 47 points and just ran him out of the gym. And Thompson had 29 points that night. He made 6 threes. He scored a bunch of points, and I was like, who is this guy? Ironically, Mac McClung also was very good in that game, and Jalen Slauson was also very good in that game. And Jalen Slauson was on the Pacers in preseason, and Mac McClung was on the Pacers during the regular season. That's Osceola team is just rolling through Indiana. Here comes Ethan Thompson next to make his mark and prove what he can do. And he deserves it. He has improved every year, which is a small thing to ask of a 6'4" guy who's 26. Like, that's something, but it's the scoring that makes him at least appealing as a prospect. His percentages really have rose all the time. 43% his first year, 47%, now 43, 45, little under 45, and now 45 again this year. His three-point percentage from 30 to 35, now up to 37. He's just improved steadily with his efficiency. He's got good enough passing traits. He's a decent rebounder, almost 6 a game rebounding this year, but he's grown that efficiency with continually crescendoing volume of shooting. This year with Sioux Falls taking almost 18 shots a game across his 8 appearances, and in 37 minutes, and he's averaging 27 points a game in the G League. So you understand how that can be somebody you at least want to take a look at as a prospect type dude, even though at 26 years old, and he'll turn 27 in next May. So like basically during the season, just after it ends. So he's older, like he's more Quentin Jackson variety than younger. And that is actually very telling when it comes to this transaction, because the Pacers need their two-way guys. They've needed RayJ Dennis 13 times, needed, past tense, not have needed, 13 times already this season. RayJ Dennis was in the rotation half of his appearances, or one under half, whatever, this season, including a 30-minute game, a couple very high 20-minute games. Like, they actually needed him to play. Talon Peter was in the rotation a couple times pre-injury, and he's kind of fallen out of there. Quentin Jackson obviously has been, he was critical in one of their 4 wins. They need their two-way guys. So to move on from one is very telling, and to me, of what they think their needs are right now. Who knows if Thompson is any sort of long-term stick? But ironically, my first reaction to this, because I've always been at least pretty intrigued and interested in the RayJ Dennis experience, when there was it was a very small window of time, but there was a window this season where Quentin Jackson was ramping up from his first return, and McConnell was still out, and Nembhard was still out. So this is a very thin window. But I thought instead of the Pacers doing what they were doing with Shepard starting for a little, and then Walker, and then Pascal was point Pascal, I thought they should start RayJ Dennis. And I get that they were really hurt to get there, but I wrote that and made the case. And then Q started instead, and he hadn't really shown anything, and then he was much better. So I was wrong to have said that, but I legitimately had that thought because he was passing pretty well. He makes guys better. That's his appeal. That's why the Pacers signed him. Back in January in the first place, he was a very good G League player. Like, he helped the Boom get their first win last weekend. I don't think RayJ Dennis is bad, but I do think that given what the Pacers have been doing literally all season, chasing their tail, trying to get a rotation that makes sense and depth pieces that make sense, why they would do something like this is interesting, because my first reaction was, oh man, they waived a point guard. I mean, Nembhard just missed a game with an injury. And so they only had McConnell, and Dennis played in that Wizards game, right? It was garbage time, but still, like, they have been banged up at that position. Quentin Jackson is still currently hurt. Cam Jones is, albeit recovering, but still currently hurt. Like, they're currently putting all their eggs in a very small point guardy basket without Dennis. But think of what they also have been dealing with injury-wise, and what they have more injuries of right this second, present tense. And that's kind of this like 2, 3, 4-ish range of guys who can kind of be interchanged through the position. Some guys can exclusively play one or the other, but they've gotten minutes out of the Cody Martins of the world, the Jeremiah Robinson Earls of the world, the Garrison Matthews of the world, the whoever's this season, Mac McClungs of the world, all these many players at this 2-ish, 3-ish, 4-ish roles, all kind of interchangeable again, because they've been really hurt there. No Toppin, no Furphy, no Neesmith right now. Lots of other guys have been in and out at that spot, and they currently are missing the three that I just said, plus Quentin Jackson, who can be an off-ball guard. They do actually have a need for depth at that spot, too. The game they just played against Chicago, Tony Bradley, RayJ Dennis, and Talon Peter were their DNPs, and Garrison Matthews did play in that game. Matthews' contract expired. This is the most like direct thing, if you wanted to follow the chain of the roster, to me, is that Matthews played Saturday against the Bulls, and then his contract expired that night. He's done. I don't even know if the Pacers have a hardship. We'll talk more about Matthews in a second in the present moment. But that would mean the next guy who would be their 10th rotation player at present would probably be Talon Peter, and that's fine. Talon Peter, they drafted him. We've seen what the pops of him can be, but let's pretend Talon Peter gets hurt. Then it's nobody. They have no one else available who can play that second unit. Like, currently it's McConnell, Walker, Robinson, Earl. Like, they need another thing there. Ethan Thompson is the present tense version of that. And if no point guards get hurt for 2 weeks, a week, whatever, while Cam Jones gets healthy and Quentin Jackson gets healthy, then once those two could potentially be back, they would have top to bottom a team that once again makes sense until Neesmith returns, until way off top and returns, things of that nature. So I do understand how this helps them in the present. I do understand how Ethan Thompson could be a good player given how he's played in the G League before. I think RayJ Dennis is good, at least for the level of player that he is, a two-way contract player. Like, he is an interesting two-way player, and losing good ones of those is not fun. But I do get why they did this. This does have logical sense to me, like most moves they've made this season, trying to field a rotation that could be healthy. And we've already seen their injury report for Pacers Cavs. It's not like there's something new and surprising that meant they needed a guard immediately. So I think this is truly about both talent and fit in the present, and injuries have played a part in their choices of fit all season long. So Ethan Thompson is on the Pacers, and the other roster part of this is Garrison Matthews. His hardship 10-day ended on Saturday, late after the Bulls game, basically into Sunday. And look, I mean, there's just nothing to say. So the Garrison Matthews appeal, why it made sense for the team with the worst 3-point percentage in league to sign him, is he could shoot, and then he didn't make anything for the Pacers. He shot 15% from 3, 2 for 13 from deep. And, he took a lot of toughies, or like movement ones or in transition. And I would hear or see a lot of reactions of like, why is he taking that? That's a tough one. I'm like, okay, no, not for him. Like, if you watch Garrison Matthews before, he can make those shots. He didn't, and he should be graded on what he did do, which is not make them. But think back to the Wizards game, which is the only game he actually did make shots in, by the way, was against Washington. He actually made threes in that game. I mean, he had so many, and I'm not even like being overly critical here because he had been on the team for all of 8 days, right? And he barely knew the plays. But like he had some like, where are you going on offense level plays where he just was in the way. His defense was not particularly impactful. He did not log more than one of any stat besides 2 makes against the Wizards in any game. And he played in the rotation 4 times. In the Toronto game, he played 4 seconds, whatever. All the rest of the games he played solid rotation minutes, 1 rebound here, 1 assist there, 1 steal. Like he just didn't do a lot. I'm not saying that he should have been expected to do a ton, but for a guy they would have asked to shoot or do at least like Cody Martin did more. Jeremiah Robinson Earl did a lot. He's still on the team. So I would, even if they had a hardship available, I would say, yeah, maybe look somewhere else. Maybe Matthews just isn't a fit. But I'm not even sure they do. Furphy got sent to the G League for a practice over the weekend, right? He's getting closer. Cam Jones, apparently, according to Rick Carlisle, is close to or is healed from this back stress thing, which is tough. But back injuries, you like can't do a whole lot at all, so they have to recondition him. But perhaps he's getting closer. Quentin Jackson doesn't even count towards hardships because he's on a 2-way, so it's possible they're not even eligible, especially because they're getting pretty close to what would have been the Neesmith timeline anyway. They're within 2 weeks of that, so they might not even have a hardship, which could be why they signed Thompson in the first place. Even if they do, I don't think Garrison Matthews would be a guy that they should chase immediately or pursue again. That's over. Just play Ethan Thompson, give it a shot, see what happens if that's the case. Last note, 2-way contracts are prorated midseason. Matthews, by being signed on November 30th, I believe has 38 or 39. My own math, I got close to 39, but I can't tell if it's 38 or 39. A 1-day difference there. Regardless, he can play in that many games or be active for that many games this season for the Pacers. He's on a 2-year 2-way deal. That is not that important. They could still cut him anytime with no cap penalty, but all worth knowing. Okay, let's get into the trends. The Pacers defense is top 6 since Ben Mathurin came back. Their lineups are humming. What is going on here? Is this a thing they can rely on? Is this fluky shooting? What is actually the reason for this? Why do I think it's actually working? We'll get to that next year on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, we got to talk about PrizePicks, the holiday season, one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks, the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. They have an extra layer of excitement as the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute. The app takes very little process to get going. It's very smooth. It's very intuitive. You choose from a huge range of unique stats, fantasy score, field goals, attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. They have the early payout feature. That's a great bonus. When your lineup starts strong, you can cash out early if you want. And they have a stacks feature. They'll let you choose the same player 3 times in one lineup, like a QB's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. Deposits and withdrawals are easy and quick, which keeps everything flowing. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today. And every single day, your second listen should be Locked On Heat, because they had Ethan Thompson in training camp in preseason. They probably will not be talking about him, but I watched a cool story of him playing. The Heat played a preseason game in Puerto Rico, and Thompson's Puerto Rican. So that was one of his first media availabilities, was talking quite a bit about that. And the Heat are playing good basketball right now. And thank you for being an everydayer who listens to Locked On Pacers every day. I appreciate you guys for doing that and interacting with me and making the show what it is. Okay, let's talk about lineups. I talked about this and touched on it after Pacers Bulls. Pacers go down 6 in the final 5 minutes. Who do they turn to? A lineup that they have touched on a few times that has been solid, that they turn to for a long stretch of success. That 5 being, you've heard it a million times, or you know exactly what I'm going to say if you've watched any of their recent games. The big 3, the biggest 3, the best 3, whatever. They don't have a good nickname yet, of Siakam, Mathurin, and Nembhard, and surrounding them, TJ McConnell at the 1 and Jay Huff at the 5. McConnell plus Nembhard, a combo that we know Rick Carlisle likes. The 2 point guard groups can get more paint pressure, can move the ball. Jay Huff has played very well of late on both ends of the court. And so let's just, before we do anything specific about why does this work, what do the numbers say, can they keep doing this, what's going to happen when Neesmith returns, all sorts of the conversation about a 5-man unit. Just zoom out. Like, think of the available Pacer players right this second. This might be their best 5 offensive and defensive players at the moment, right? Is that possible? I mean, McConnell is good on both ends. Nembhard's good on both ends. Mathurin improving, certainly on defense. He's good on both ends. Siakam good on both ends. And Huff right this second, especially as shots are going in for him, has been good on both ends. You could very easily stare at me and say, Shepard. No, the bench right now is Shepard, Robinson, Earl Walker, Jackson, and then some of the morass of two-way dudes, Tony Bradley, Garrison Matthews, right? So this top 5 just straight up works. Maybe Ben Shepard is in the defensive 5 over McConnell if the size requires it, like if LaMelo Ball is on the other team or Emmanuel Quickly. Got it. Yes, I believe that. Maybe Isaiah Jackson in certain alignments. Honestly, on both ends, he's been good on offense and defense at times. This season, there are certain centers he would perform very well against. There are certain defensive assignments that he just runs right past for easy baskets, right? Maybe. So I'm not saying fast and hard that this 5 that I'm talking about is the best on both ends at basically every spot, but it is pretty dang close. And it's been a very, very, very good group. So far, we've only seen it 3 games, this quintet, but they're plus 11 in 11 minutes, a lot of that being crunch time. They debuted in that Cleveland game, and this is the stretch that after the third quarter when the Pacers went way behind, they made it a game again and made it close, and the Pacers kind of competed. And remember, they got it into single digits. They lost by 11 after losing the third quarter by 12. They were plus 6 that game. In 9 possessions against Toronto, they were minus 2, not their best game. And then in 9 possessions against the Bulls, 9 offensive possessions to be clear, they were plus 7. That's how you get to plus 11. 11 points, 4 allowed in 4 minutes and 18 seconds against Chicago. 6 points, 0 allowed in that stretch of almost 3 minutes against Cleveland. That is so far the shining thing, is the defensive numbers are impressive. But let's go through some of the things that stand out to me in order, just watching them play. They get in the paint, right? This Pacers team, the mantra that we've heard for years and years and years is paint to great. And when Tyrese Haliburton's playing, very often they can get in the paint a lot. And TJ McConnell can get there, and Nembhard can get there, Mathurin can get there, and Siakam can get there, and they have a little more space to do it when J-Hub is actually providing spacing by making shots. It's much easier for them to provide rim pressure. That lineup right now is shooting 63.6% on 2s. That's very good. That might be unsustainably good. Might be. We'll see. They're easy shots. But you might say, oh, that might regress. Oh, I'd give you that, maybe a little bit. No problem. They're 2 for 6 on 3s. That's a small sample, but that's 33%. They're going to be better from there. It's very possible their offense settles in at this rate. 24 points on 21 possessions isn't even good. So I think it could get better. That's a 114.3 offensive rating for this group so far. If they shoot better from 3, if it's enough to offset what they've done that might slip away from 2, that could get to like 117-ish. That'd be great, right? This group can score enough, certainly for what the Pacers have been. And that's not a good offensive rating, but for what the Pacers offense has been this year, it is pretty well. What they have done well is they've defended just awesome. I mean, they have been lights out, terrific on the defensive end so far in these 11 minutes. Their opponents have 10 points on 23 possessions. So that is, these are all comically low samples. That's a 43.5 offensive rating. I'm not going to tell you that that's something that's going to hold. In fact, their opponents are shooting 0% from 3 with those 5 guys on the floor. 0 for 5. 26% on 2s. J-Huff shining in the defense. They're 4 for 15 around the basket. That's all going to go way, way, way up. Do not read into their raw plus minus through these 3 appearances. But it is a good defensive group, and it should be a group that forces misses and causes problems for other team. So even if stuff regresses toward the mean in a lot of ways, it's clear this is a thing, and the numbers say that they've done a lot of good things. The other thing that is a thing is the Siakam-McConnell pairing. Just those 2. Ignore who the other 3 players are. In fact, the top lineup, oh, whoops, I almost just lied to you. The top lineup in minutes with those 2 guys this season has been Shepard and Jarris Walker, right? And is not the same as that group. And by the way, McConnell, Shepard, Walker, Huff, Siakam is plus 21 this season. So and that is a good launching point for, it's not just playing with the best guys that's been good for McConnell, Siakam. They've been good with like everybody. That is also clearly a thing. Pacers plus 21 with those 2 on the floor so far this season. That is in 99 minutes. It's 118 minutes, excuse me. I had the wrong tab open. They've been lights out together so far. Really, really good for the Pacers when those two have been out there. Their offense has been good. Their defense has been very good, almost a dead even defensive rating. Same deal as the above group, rocking on offense without making threes. With both of those guys on the floor this season, the Pacers are shooting 30.5% from deep. If that goes up and stabilizes at a more normal rate, their 2-point percentage is 58. Now that's a combo that clicks. And I'll say two things. One is this is good. They have combos that work with their veterans. They shouldn't want their veterans to be playing a ton in a season like this, right? There is a right amount of veterans in a season that's about the future. Don't get me wrong. But think back to last year, early in the season when the Pacers were floundering and were 9-14 and 10-15 and are they ever going to turn it around? Think of the two guys that I talked about the most being consistent. It was those two. The vets just understand how to play and how to bring it every night, regardless of coverage or regardless of their teammates around them. They're doing that again this year. Any close game or if you're a fan who wants the Pacers to turn it around, like you should want these two to be on the floor together often because they have been huge guiding this team to success and wins of late, especially when they're with the Mathurin, Nembhard, and Huff trio around them. I think some of this and most of the stuff I said can hold, but when opponents start making threes against that one specific group of five I talked about, let's see how they hold up specifically as a quintet because that number is shocking, but the rest is all within the realm of possibility that it stays about what it has been. So their best players are figuring out how to play together. And I'll add this, even if you're a person who's like, dang, they should lose every game. It sucks. Siakam made that shot. One, that sucks. It's November. Come on. Two, the goal of this season, it should be about figuring out stuff like this. Like, oh, here's a 5-man combination that works without Haliburton. They can turn to that next year, right? That's the point. If it leads to wins, it leads to wins. Like, are they supposed to forfeit? Like, how are they supposed to figure anything out? So I think that's a good thing for them to have found out for next season. You know what else is a good thing for them to have found out? They can guard again. They did it. They're back. How is this happening? What player has brought it on, if anyone? And is this something that can hold as the Pacers have some good opponents coming their way this week? We'll get to all that to close out today's Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, let me tell you about FanDuel. NFL Sunday. It's a crazy day today. The Seahawks defense saving me in fantasy. They move fast. One big play. Suddenly, everything feels different. That is what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game. You're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in on the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. That's on FanDuel. The game moves fast, and so can you. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Our second listen, Locked On Hawks, double OT, caw against Philly. I feel very good about my prediction that team was going to be great. And even without Trae Young, they've been really great. Jalen Johnson, 41. Go check out Locked On Hawks for more about that crazy game. And thank you for being an everyday listener at Locked On Pacers. Locked On Pacers? Locked On Pacers, you everydayers. Let's combine two words. If you listen every day, thank you so much. You are a big part of my life. And I like speaking about the Pacers to you. Okay, let's talk about defense. The Pacers defense has been quite good recently. I made it a thing after the Wizards game when they gave up 86 to Washington, and then they just held the Bulls to 101. They held the Raptors to 97. The Wizards are not a good offensive team. The Raptors are a very good offensive team. The Bulls are an okay offensive team. So, I know like a murderer's row of opponents, but some good ones in there, some teams that were hot this year, and they held them. Since Ben Mathurin came back, that was on the 17th of November. The Pacers are 6th in defensive rating, 108.4. Ahead of them, Miami, OKC, Houston, Minnesota, Toronto. That's it. Every other team is behind the Pacers. Granted, all those teams above them have won a lot of games. The Pacers are under 500 in that stretch, but they're defending very well. They have a positive net rating in that stretch because their defense has been legitimately good and their offense has been survivable. That's the best I can say. Their offensive rating in that stretch is 22nd. They've got to score some points, but their defense looks good right now. Reminder, pre that date, and Mathurin did play a few games to start the season. Pre that Mathurin return, they were 26th, only ahead of the Kings, Pelicans, Wizards, and Nets. Yuck, bad teams, right? So their defense stunk. And let's, to be clear about the full timeline, they started the season decent to pretty good, right? They defended pretty well against Dallas and Minnesota early in the season. Their win against Golden State, their defense was good, but they had a horrible, horrible defensive game against Atlanta and Memphis. And then after they lost to Milwaukee, their defense just exploded. Terrible against Brooklyn. Horrible on the road trip. It fell to like dead last in league levels for a stretch there. So the fact that they're up to 6th is noteworthy. So recently, I think it's fair to say their opponent 2-point percentage has been lights out. That is where you have seen them. If you look through their game log, you see the most success there. Their lowest 2-point percentage allowed in a game was Toronto. In that game they played in Toronto and lost at the buzzer to Brandon Ingram. Their second lowest was the Bulls game that they just played. Their third lowest was that Nets game that they somehow lost. Their fourth lowest was that Hornets game that they won. That is the start of this trip. And their seventh lowest is the Wizards game that they just won. They've been awesome defending the basket, right? And I don't think that is just, oh, great, Jay Huff's back there and he's deterred some shots and changed things. It's not just the bigs. So many times when paint defense improves, it's very natural to go to the bigs, and it's not that. Jay Huff has been helpful. The zone defense stuff they got out of a few of these games, which has not been there as much, but is still happening, is part of it. A lot of it is guys just defending their matchup better. Keep them out of the paint completely. Make their shot harder. Don't funnel them into the paint for easy shots. Like, they just have been better and more on a string, keeping guys away from the easy shots, more pride, more focus. That's been huge. 3-point percentage, some luck recently, admittedly, right? This is another stat to keep an eye on regressing. The Bulls shot pretty well from 3. Detroit in this stretch of last 6 shot pretty well from 3. Cleveland as well, but under 30% Charlotte, under 20% Toronto, 21% the Bulls. They've had a lot of games. They've only had 2 opponents, I believe, shoot 40% from 3 in a game this year. That was Utah, who scored 1 million points, and Milwaukee, who beat them at the buzzer. The Pacers are actually probably due for a couple games where it's just like, oh man, their opponent just lights them up, and that's fine. That happens to everybody. But they have been okay. If you're good enough defending guys in the paint, you are going to make shots harder. It's going to be harder to find those passes and angles. It's not like not correlated, but they are getting a little lucky with their 3-point defensively. But there is a big winner, and this is the most obvious reason their defense has been better. They're just not fouling nearly as much. I mean, way less. Free throw points for the Bulls, 9 on Sunday. The Pacers' previous low was 13. Guess who that happened against? The game before. So that was against the Wizards. The Bucks also had 13 in that game that the Pacers lost at the buzzer, right? Not fouling has really helped them. And they're still fouling too much, honestly. But they've cut down their stupid fouls per game from like 5 to 3 or 2. And the general better defense combined with that has just kept their opponents off the line. They're not giving up free points. They're not bleeding runs. And I'd call this the Tony Bradley line. And I don't even mean this to slander Tony Bradley. It's a positive thing for the Pacers. But like Tony Bradley not playing has, to be clear, been done as a result of Jackson and Huff being better than him. But even in that's the case, Huff and Isaiah Jackson have fouled a lot this season. The fact that Tony Bradley's minutes are, few and far between of late, and should be few and far between, that's because Huff and Jackson aren't in foul trouble, right? Tony Bradley played 7 minutes against Washington. I think he played 1 possession against the Bulls when Jackson fouled, and then less than 7 minutes in all of the Detroit, Cleveland, and Charlotte games. 17 plus in basically every other game before that besides Milwaukee, right? He was playing a lot. He was starting for a stretch. Now that he's not playing at all because the other bigs are playing better than him and not fouling, their free throw points are way lower. So many things for the defense and the reasons I think they're playing better regardless of stats. 1, they've had the same group available for a little bit. They had no Nembhard against the Wizards, but just like we talk a lot about chemistry, and that is generally related to offense and the ball and how players interact with the ball. Defensive chemistry is also a thing. That was a big part of the Pacers turning their defense around last year, quite frankly. Miles Turner admitted that, right? They've had good defensive chemistry the last couple of weeks. It's actually growing too. Mathurin returning. Mathurin's been better on defense this year, certainly. I think it's been honestly a little overstated what he's doing. He's playing well. I'm not trying to slander anything from him. I'm only saying this caveat to say him returning gives them no true zeros on the defensive end, especially with their smaller guys who are playing. I guess Matthews was, but he's no longer on the team. With absolutely no offense to prior hardship players or two-way signings or any standard signings in some cases at some positions, when Mathurin was back and all those guys were not playing anymore, they have had just like 0 to crummy defenders on the floor in their rotation. It's been good. 3, better on-ball perimeter defense. That's kind of related to 2, just generally from everybody, though. That applies to other positions. 4, Jay Huff, they finally figured out how to actualize him. Some of that is zone, and some of that is him having success in the zone, let him play more, which let him get reps, which let him get better. Right, it all just kind of kept snowballing from one successful strategy, and then they have more defensive power. And 5, the same group that we talked about earlier, the same injury group guys have recovered. TJ McConnell had 2 days off before that Detroit home game to rest, right? Ben Mathurin, guys who missed time this season, they could rest. Andrew Nembhard, who is still dealing with an injury, clearly could rest and didn't even play in the Wizards game. They had a real 2-day gap. And I think that energy gave them some juice in the legs, some spryness. I know it's not fun to talk about athletes being fully recovered and juiced up for NBA games, but like it's a thing. It is a thing. And the Pacers guys are defending better and playing well. And I do think it mattered that they had an extra day off in there, and they just survived a 3 and 4 nights, possibly because of it. And they have another 3 and 4 nights tonight with the Cavs in Indy. The Cavs on a back-to-back after a tough loss to the Celtics. I'll be there, and I'll have a breakdown post-game, of course, right here on this podcast feed from that game. Thank you guys so much for listening today. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Back tomorrow talking Pacers Cavs. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.